Now you might have noticed we went through Parliament Square and I didn't stop. That's because we're coming back tomorrow. So I didn't want to steal the thunder of that. I thought you might just glancing look at it. But this is Whitehall. This is the main street of government. So in US terms, you've got Congress and then you have your civil service. So you have the government departments. This is where the civil service government departments are. So you've got, you've got the Treasury, the Department of Defence, the Home Office. It's all on this street, all the way up to there are one of two lines, and they'll put you in one line or the other, one of which you'll just walk straight through to where a bus will take you to a boat. The other one, they'll x-ray your luggage and you go through airport style security.
not guide. It's all about respect, which is an area I need to work on. Clearly. I wanted to tell you a small story about Paris during the war. So Paris, compared to London, is absolutely perfect. There was no bombing in the invasion. Paris surrendered without any damage to the city. However, there was one moment of tremendous risk for Paris, and there is a particular German general who's credited for effectively saving Paris completely. This man's name was Dietrich von Cholitz. Actually, this is a terrible thing I'm about to say here. Now I'm being filmed. It's not Cholitz, it's Choltitz. That's really what his name is.
Middle school was just hell.
Oh, I feel your pain. Okay, so in 1944 the war is lost, and von Choltitz is the commander of Paris, and he is given a direct order by Hitler to mine the city, to put explosives in all of the key buildings, and to level the city. No Notre Dame, no Petit Palace, no Eiffel Tower, to blow them all up. All of the explosives were there in place. The French army was about to leave, but this general in charge was a big lover of French culture. He'd been in Paris for some time, and at this point he decided to disobey that order, which is the only reason that Paris survives. And more than that, I think, he actually says later after the war he thought it was militarily futile to blow up Paris, and secondly that he thought that Hitler had gone insane. Those were his two reasons for not doing it. So this beautiful city was in danger at one point, and we have this German Wehrmacht general who fought in World War I as well as World War II. This is regular army, not SS. He gets credited for saving the city. A little bit of information to you from Mr. Shoes. So I know some of you are a bit peckish, so we're going to have some free time back in Saint Michel where you can get some snacks, a crepe, macaroon, something like that. Don't buy chocolate there, or you can if you want, but tomorrow we're going to be in Belgium, and there is a Leonidas chocolate shop in Bastogne. I think Leonidas maybe is pretty much the best chocolate you can buy. What do you think, Robbie? No? What's the best chocolate? Beer flavoured chocolate?
No.
Beer. One track mind.
This has been such a great trip, and everything has gone so smoothly that I want to take this opportunity right now to thank Will for everything that he's done, for all of the coordinations and the mailing.
I'll say back at you. A fantastic group.
As he has mentioned a number of times about Eisenhower and working together in a group, his flexibility, his willingness to listen and make changes, stopping off at Winchester the whole day on Sunday.
I'm sorry, that was a cheap shot.
That was cheap. At least you didn't go with the Napoleon part. Anyway, what I would like to do is to give Will one of our coins.
Thank you.
So that he will remember our Youngstown crew and how much a part of our group that he has become. Because you cannot think of this whole trip without thinking of Will. So thank you.
I really appreciate that. You have been an astonishingly good group. And you know, not just the organisation you've had, but the interest you've shown, the care you've taken of each other, which is a big thing. And it's been an absolute delight to work with you guys. Okay? All right, let's get going.
What was surprising was when the kids were talking that other people going to the cemetery, other visitors going to the cemeteries, Europeans, stopping and listening to our kids talking about their soldiers at each fair. So that surprised me very, very positively. That really was the core of the whole trip for me, was that day in Normandy and the experience of the different events that we had, St. Mary Glaze, Pointe du Hoc, Omaha Beach, and the cemeteries. And it was just very powerful to me to see the kids and you know, some of them choking up, catching them by surprise. The fact that the empowerment that the kids feel when other people want to listen to what they have to say. That was powerful for me, and that to me made the whole trip worthwhile. As great as the entire trip was, what makes the whole trip worthwhile was that day on Omaha Beach and in the cemetery.
For me, the most meaningful part was visiting the cemetery and placing the coin down and giving the speeches, because a lot of the soldiers weren't able to return home to their families, so the fact that we can bring a part of Youngstown to them, like, really made me feel good inside.
I'd say the most meaningful part of the trip was going to the cemetery and visiting the grave of my guy. His name is Robert A. Farnell. I feel like I'd just done so much research about him, and I knew so much about him that, like, visiting his grave, I felt like I was really honoring him and remembering all the things like he did in life.
And saw the students do their show their research on the soldiers that had died there. I thought they all did a fantastic job, and it really showed the connection between Youngstown and Normandy and the soldiers, and it showed a great appreciation for the sacrifices they made and what they did there.
To me, the historical aspect of it, in particular, my dad was in the war. He was very young, he was 17. He wasn't the initial D-Day landing at Omaha Beach, but he came the next day. And he was a medic. So to me, that was incredibly important, something that I just basically wanted to see what he saw. Of course, I realized it wasn't, you know, the same time frame, but just to walk where he walked. He died when I was young. I was only 16, and I became a nurse basically because of what he did as a medic, and also I later on in life joined the Army as well. So the D-Day, Normandy, to me was by far the most meaningful. That's the biggest part for me coming on this trip.
I'd have to say the most meaningful for me was definitely the cemetery in Normandy. Getting to research about people in our area, soldiers in our area who died, who gave their lives for the future. Going there and hearing all their stories and seeing just all the graves there was definitely the most impactful to me.
You know, for me, honestly, the most meaningful part was the entire trip. I really enjoyed the journey. I really enjoyed the mental preparation, mapping things through, and actually seeing the cities and how I had the cities in my head and then in reality. So and for me, it was the trip in entirety.
The most meaningful part to me was when I got to meet Irving Locker, who was a World War II veteran who we ran into at Versailles when we were walking in the palace. Stephen and I spotted him with his hat on, and so we went up to him and we got to meet him and his wife, and that was just so meaningful and so touching. And he survived D-Day, he was in the Battle of the Bulge, and he was also in the taking of Berlin, so he was, survived it all, so that was just wonderful.
I'd say my favorite part of the trip was like one of the first days. We were in London and people were in the National Gallery, like an art museum, but Marie DePasco and I, we were sitting at this fountain in the square, and it was just so beautiful and warm out, and I just loved looking around. Yeah, that was my favorite part.
Definitely going to the top of the Eiffel Tower with my new friend. We saw literally everything, like you could see everything. There was bathrooms up there, which really surprised me. And then we went and walked around, saw the Eiffel Tower sparkle. That was pretty cool.
Yeah.
The traffic jam at Colville, and the 2-hour monologue from Gabe, which was I think the funniest 2 hours I've ever spent. Gabe was hilarious. Who knew Gabe was that witty? That was fantastic. And the other thing I would mention was St. Mary Glees. I wasn't expecting that to be quite such a big event. St. Mary Glees was fantastic, and also Mr. Lindstrom insisted on that, and I tried to convince him not to take us there, and I was wrong.
You know, I would say, and I heard this before, so I have to steal it, but really the homage that France in particular, and the other countries, of course, they celebrated the liberation of their country, of their cities, and the reverence that they had for the United States and the soldiers and the sacrifice. So that surprised me the most.
Probably going to the top of the Eiffel Tower, like seeing that view and everything. That's something I won't forget.
Taking the boat ride in Paris, seeing all the different monuments, that was definitely memorable.
Just really getting to see all these sites. We never would have done this on our own, and this was just a wonderful trip to take, especially since it is the 75th anniversary of D-Day. We just wouldn't have done this on our own, so this was just really special.
It's very difficult to say because I've been wanting to do this trip ever since I heard the names of these cities and these places, these battles. I'd say the whole thing was just an extraordinary thing for me. I turned 60 this year, so it was huge for me to make this part of my birthday gift. Bailey graduating. I think us being here together to celebrate this, but again, I would have to say being at D-Day was the most rewarding.
Yeah, I'd have to say my favorite was definitely St. Mary Glees and Pointe du Hoc and the cemetery. I mean, that day it really hit me why we were here and what we were here to see and how big of an impact these people had on this country and they have on us.
What surprised me most would probably be how well this trip went. And normally there's a lot of hiccups, and this one went really well. And even if there was a hiccup, it was solved very well.
Personally, I would like to thank Mr. Lindstrom. I would like to thank everybody. There was 45 of us. I would like to thank Will. I would like to thank you, Liam. Everybody made it a wonderful experience. In our own way, we all bonded as a result of this. No other person. We're going to show our pictures. We're going to describe our stories and our own personal experiences. But we were our own band of brothers on this trip, and I think the 45 of us will really always have that bond between us. We'll probably run into each other around town from time to time, but that is the one thing I think that we'll always remember our personal experience with everybody. So I think for parents, I would consider the trip in itself is amazing, the education is amazing, but I think it's another way for your child to bond, in some cases with total strangers as well. So I would highly encourage that. I know it could be a little frightful just to send your child alone, but the children did wonderful. There's wonderful tour guides, there's wonderful hosts, there's wonderful just all kinds of folks that are going to be there watching over them. So sorry for the long answer, but absolutely yes.
It really is kind of nice. As I pick up new bits and pieces of things, I try to think of how I'm going to incorporate this trip into the next time I cover these topics in class, and my mind is spinning on as far as some of the things I can pull into it. So yeah, I loved it.
Highly recommended for teachers. It's like coaching. It's anytime that you can get to be with the kids outside of the classroom. It just makes things more worthwhile, more fun, more meaningful. It's good for the kids. They like to see their teachers in a different light. Teachers to see the kids in a different light, to share an experience, or share experience on the train today. Our carriage didn't show up, so we have adults and kids sitting on the floor trying to find a seat. We're moving all over the place, keeping busy. So as a teacher, I highly recommend it. And particularly when you can do it like history, it lends itself to history where you can get out of the classroom. We have other people here, art teachers, going on different types of tours. Anytime you can get the students and the kids out of the classroom, I think is very positive.
The kids are here because they want to be here. Part of them, for whatever reason, they want to be here, and they're doing a great job. You can see the questions that they ask, and even engaging them in different parts. Like we went through Versailles and touring the inside of Versailles, which is just overwhelming. It's a phenomenal. I mean, the palace is just over the top. And then we toured the outside, and I talked to one of the students on the trip, and I said, "What part did you like the most?" He said, "Oh, outside by far, definitely." And just seeing the difference in, a lot of people were thinking, okay, the inside is so phenomenal, but this person really had a connection with the grounds and the landscape and how beautiful it was and how well maintained. So I thought that was really cool to show the different aspects of, we're all going to the same spot, but people take away different pieces from it.
The difference is, and this is the reason why I do my job, the difference is the students. The students always bring something new to it, and what I love about it, which is the job satisfaction that I get, is you get typical teenage students. They come and they're on their phone and they're glancing out at something and they're a bit tired and they're doing all this stuff, and then bit by bit the tour really gets into their bones and they start opening up and they start relating to each other much better, and they're looking at the whole world in a different way. And my job satisfaction is all of these students are going to travel for the rest of their life, and their life is going to be encompassing the whole world and not just the environment that they grew up in, and I think that's fantastic. Yeah, one last word, Mr. Lindstrom, Paul, you were fantastic. It was a pleasure. Okay, so I just wanted to say a few words to the students on this trip about Mr. Lindstrom. I've done many tours. I've done this tour many times, and I've worked with many GLs. And I want you students to know that Mr. Lindstrom is exceptionally good at what he's done. The choices that he's made, the research that he's done, the things that he's shown me about a tour that I know really well, that I'd never seen before. And everything worked perfectly with him. And he gave you humour, and he was chilled the whole time. So I want you to remember what a great job he did. And sometime, when you're at school, quietly go up to him and really thank him for what he's done for you, because it's extraordinary. He is great at what he's done, and just so you know, you students were pretty good too.